Hello BookTube, I'm Scott.
I'm Nelle.
We are gunpowder.fiction.and.plot, and today we're doing the Efftup tag, which is Efftup. So, if this works with like scheduling and being organised and stuff, which is a long shot with us, this will go up on the 26th of January, which is officially called Australia Day.
And that's Efftup.
Because in the 30s and even before that, the Aboriginal Australians called the 26th of January Invasion Day, and it wasn't until the 90s that the government made the 26th of January Australia Day a public holiday. Before that, it was in all different times of the month, except for in New South Wales. I think it might have been state run or so. Anyway,
regardless, it doesn't correlate with a date of any significance to anyone other than Indigenous Australians, and it's not a date that should be celebrated.
No, it's pretty racist and effed up of our government, or rather our government in the 90s.
But our governments who continue and perpetuate.
Well, basically, stuff that Howard did in the 90s with refugees is policy now, and so's his.
Yeah, fix it, people.
Yeah. So that's us criticising our shitty country.
Let's get on with the tag.
So, if you guys haven't checked out Daniel at Guilty Feet, now if I can do some editing tricks, this is why you should do it. And if I have no idea how to edit, because I don't know how I'm going to do that, but if I don't know how to do it, you just missed out on a video of Daniel on a ladder in front of his bookcase that moves.
Yeah.
And
that's the ladder
why
you want, he's got it.
That's why you should watch him. It's a pretty shit reason to watch him. There are multiple reasons you should watch Daniel. He's excellent. And he's a British Israeli. I think he might be a Brit living in Israel, but I should never pick nationalities. I'm not 100% sure. I think he is British living in Israel, but I might have just completely...
I really enjoy your descriptions of our fellow booktubers.
When I say stuff and then I'm like, oh, maybe...
Because I'm like, how made up is that?
Maybe I need to backpedal on that. Daniel is a person...
Who reads things.
Yes.
We know that.
Yes.
Alright, next.
Anyway, so we had a conversation with Daniel in our worst books of the year, where I said American Psycho was the most effed up book I have ever read, and Daniel said, if you think that's effed up, I've got some books for you. And then you said to him, go on, what are they? And so he has created a tag. And I think that's excellent.
I think it's excellent too. You should watch the original tag. We'll link it in the description.
And you should subscribe to Daniel because he's new and he's quality.
Yeah.
So, basically, there are 10 tags here and everything is effed up in a different way. So the first one now is effed up in a good way.
A book that's effed up in a good way. I am going to choose My Sister the Serial Killer because I completely accept the narrator's choice to cover up her sister's murders.
Yeah.
And that's effed up.
I have two sisters, and I empathise with I can. And the funny thing was, after I read it and I told you what happened, I just said, "Yeah, look, my sisters are these two," and you said, "No, they're not. They're the opposite."
Other way around.
And I actually think that we're both right.
They think I'm right.
That's only because there's a nurse and stuff. What do I think that's effed up in a good way? I have to consider what's effed up because most of what I read is probably a little bit effed up. But effed up in a good way. I really, really liked last year. One of my favourite books last year was Rohingya Mysteries, A Fine Balance. And that talks about fucked up things like forced castration, for example. Thank you, the Indian government, for that. And that's just one of a mirage of things that book discusses that is cheerful. But I thought that was really good because it was discussed in a way that could entertain and educate me at the same time.
Entertain? I get what you're saying, but... The
characters were in a fix and I was interested in their outcome.
I understand.
Yeah. I'm a little bit callous sometimes. A book that was effed up in a bad way.
I want to say The Tattooist of Auschwitz by Heather Morris, because of the sanitization of the Auschwitz experience in favour of a simple love story.
This was a weird book because when I read it, I said, that's really inaccurate fiction. And then the end of it, she's like, and I interviewed this character and this is his story and it really happened. I was like, what? Yeah,
it's very strange. But I remember reading it at the time and thinking, because I knew the whole way through that it was a sort of fictionalised memoir. I remember my grandfather had some unpleasant experiences in World War II. He was not Jewish, but because of where he was born, he saw a lot of things at the age of 15 that were, no 15-year-old should have to live through. And the way he spoke to me about it was very sanitary and very...
Maybe it's
there was something familiar.
Survivor.
Yeah, there was something familiar in the way that this was recounted that made me feel like she just didn't dig. And I don't think it respected what happened.
Mm.
So that's effed up.
That's effed up. Well, I feel like you win. Because
everything's a competition.
I mean... yeah, but you just answered it much better than I'm going to answer it. I'm going to pick Naked Lunch by Burroughs.
Because it was just bad.
The thing is, Effed Up should not be your whole book.
Yeah.
It gets really, really boring, really, really quick.
Gruesome / uncomfortable scenes do not a plot make.
Yeah, and do you know... I criticised American Psycho for being effed up. But do you know what American Psycho did really well that Naked Lunch did terribly? American Psycho built up. It started off with like just some casual murdering and then...
It got progressively
and that was like,
more gross.
But vaguely like at the third to halfway mark was the first murder. Burroughs starts off with like people... having orgasms while being hung, like what's it?
Autoerotic asphyxiation.
Except it's not auto.
Oh.
Yeah. And you're in a heroin den and all of this sort of stuff, and then it just like nothing hits you as hard, and maybe he's trying to make you feel numb, but it was just so. It was so macho. It was so. Look at me, that guy at the party who's like, yeah, you pussies do cocaine, I do heroin. Like, that's what it was. The whole novel. So,
ick.
Yeah, it's pretty effed up.
Yeah.
A book that everybody loves, but you think is just effed up.
I mean, a book that you love that I think is effed up is The Wasp Factory.
Well, I do love that book, and you do not.
Yeah, mainly because it's plenty boring, but also because the ending is supposed to be It's supposed to elicit one thing, and I really feel like it's just demonstrates the author's complete misunderstanding of how the world works.
Oh well, we can disagree on that.
We do.
I think a book that everybody loves that I think's Efftup. I actually don't know how many people love this because I've had a few people tell me that they don't love this recently, but I had a few people tell me that they do love this book, and I definitely think it might be a little bit more divisive than I realised. But The Great Gatsby, right?
Oh yeah, that's pretty shit.
It's not a love story. He's a stalker.
Yeah.
He's a stalker. Yeah.
But we've been accepting love stories about stalkers in movies for decades.
I know, it's probably F. Scott Fitzgerald's fault.
The whole rom-com genre is, about stalkers. Change the music, so change the soundtrack, and all of a sudden they're all thrillers.
The Police don't sing about, like, every breath you take is not good. Like, but that's what Great Gatsby is to me. It is The Police, every breath you take in book form.
Creepy.
Yeah. Sexy A Efftup.
Oh.
I found this one quite difficult to answer because I found it quite difficult to answer, but I'm going to go for a real cliched answer here with Lolita by Nabako. And the reason I think it's sexy effed up is because Nabako's got these lovely poetic words, and he really does suck you in to Humbert's vision, and then suddenly he's like, wait a minute, train wreck, back to reality. He's constantly sucking you into this, it's fine, it's alright, and then he's bringing you back. But that sucking you in and getting you to, like, he does it multiple times where you're just like, hang on a second, she's 12.
Yeah. Boys are gross. I'd probably say Freshwater. I definitely think that there's a hugely sexual undercurrent in, what's her name?
Ada.
Not Ada. Ada's...
Oh, the god.
Yeah.
The god. I don't remember the name of the god.
The name will be here. Their character is purely there to protect Ada from sexual experience, and therefore is like this overtly sexualized, almost predatory, out on the prowl woman, and that's, a bit effed up. But awesome.
Isn't it the disconnect between the body and the god, the Ada and the god.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's good call. Effed up for kids. Alright. I would like to answer this one first while you ponder.
Mm-hmm.
The Chronicles of Narnia, but particularly the final book. I think it's called The Final Battle or The Last Battle. The Last Battle, that sounds right. It's so racist. And one of the four kids, oh fuck it, who cares? Susan no longer believes in Narnia in The Final Battle, right? So one of the original four no longer believes in Aslan and says the stories are all made up. And the treatment that Susan gets as a non-believer it's just so horrible, so that she is ostracized from the church. It is like everything you hear about, like, victims of Scientology and whatever.
Yeah.
It's shocking. And then the flat out racism was absolutely horrible. I just keep remembering the amount of times these characters were called darkies, and just like it's just cringe word. Like it's
I'm going to say a lot of the fodder that we were sort of brought up on in the 80s and 90s is fatphobic, racist.
Like all of it.
Like all of it.
I don't mean all the books, I mean all of the phobias.
Yeah, but both. Like, there's very few really good examples of the things that... Like, I definitely was a kid that grew up on Roald Dahl and Enid Blyton, and both of those are, like, hugely effed up.
Kids authors, I reckon, most effed up authors.
It's certainly the most painful when they are effed up too.
Yeah.
Because that's your childhood memories of fantasy and then you look back and you're like, oh, that was just like
your initial
coded racism.
Yes. Your initial response is to be defensive of the author because you idolise the author.
And it's part of your, you know... Yeah. Gross.
Yeah.
Gross. What's next?
An effed up classic.
Oh.
Well, I've already mentioned a couple of classics here. It's very hard not to mention exactly the author Daniel mentioned and my favourite author, Thomas Hardy.
Because you like it a bit effed up.
I do like it a bit effed up. And Daniel mentioned the book Jude, and oh my god, that book is so good. And
so effed up.
And so effed up. And the reason it's good is because it's effed up. I read that book knowing that it scandalised and shocked the Victorians and sort of mocking it before I went into reading it, going, yeah.
Not expecting to be scandalised or shocked yourself.
And I must say that the reasons that I felt shocked and scandalised were not the reasons the Victorians felt shocked and scandalised.
Yeah, okay.
But it was very, very good. Very, very sad. Do not read that book if you like happy books.
Happiness.
I was going to say happy endings, but really the whole thing.
If you ever want to smile again,
I have
read Jude the Obscure.
The best description I have heard of Jude the Obscure was take Tess of the D'Urbervilles and take away all the happy bits, which apparently is a lot of the novel.
Funny. I think for my classic, I want to say The Picture of Dorian Gray.
That's fucked up.
It's totally fucked up. The consequences of the man's actions do not hit home for him until he sees them visually.
Yes.
And that's fucked up.
That's a very good book too.
Yes.
Effed up in translation. Well,
I know what mine is. Do you know what yours is?
You go.
Girls Burn Brighter by Shobha Rao.
Is that not in English?
I'm pretty sure it's translated.
Oh, wow.
And if I'm wrong, then I'm using it anyway. Some of the choices that the characters are forced to make in this book are the definition of effed up. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I've got to pick between two excellent books here, and I'm just going to mention them both because we're talking about translated fiction, and we just don't read enough translated fiction. I am currently reading Earthlings by Sakara Murata. That's not right.
By this person.
I'm so Murata? I don't know. Anyway, I'm currently reading Earthlings, and I'm halfway through it. And I can already tell this is going to be one of my top 3 books of the year. It's probably going to be number 1. And it is absolutely messed up. Content warning, just...
all of them.
All of them, just...
Yeah.
And it starts off with a little girl's clear fantasy story about her stuffed animal being an alien who can't speak English, so not English, human, and having a magic wand and stuff, and then it explores. Just wow.
Okay.
Very highly recommend that book, and I am only halfway through. Also, like I said, I'm going to do 2 because it's translated, and we'd like to talk about translated. We think translated literature doesn't get good enough.
Yeah, anyway.
Tender as the Flesh. It's a book about eating people and the commercialization of it. What more do you need to know about Fucked Up than that book?
Yeah, it's pretty fucked up.
Also
incredible.
Yeah, really good. Efftup nonfiction.
Oh, most of it.
Good nonfiction is often it.
It is. It's telling you about the most shocking and horrific things we do to each other often. I've just finished reading Overland Railroad, and that was pretty effed up. It was a story about nonfiction about particularly the Green Book, but the various sort of travel guides that African Americans used to use in the early days of motoring, so that they could travel safely around America and support businesses that were safe for them to support, for starters, but also that would hire African Americans and serve them. But lots of the reasons why, and some of the backlash from organisations like the KKK and those sorts of things, is pretty effed up.
Yeah, it sounds fun. Well, I'm going to go for a completely different note. I'm going to go for a classic. I'm going to go for Nellie Bly, 12 Days in a Madhouse.
Oh, that's pretty effed up.
This is... So Nellie Bly was a journalist, and she got herself... She basically pretended to be crazy and got herself sent to a mental institution, and then did a report on the mental institution, and she got stuck there and had to rely on people to get her out. And
she had to get rescued by her editor.
And just the things that were going on, and these poor women, they gendered the asylum. So
the mental health industry has been used as a way to keep women under control for a long time.
Charles Dickens.
Yeah.
Illustrated Efftup. Now, this one's hard because I've only actually read one graphic novel, and that was this month. So I find this one quite a hard one to answer.
I'm going to say The Gollywogs. I had a copy of The Gollywogs when I was a child by Enid Blyton. Yeah. It was illustrated. It's exactly what you think it is. It's about 3 gollywogs who steal things, actually.
Oh, and their names, Golly Wally and the other one.
Really, legitimately, the most racist thing you've ever seen. I actually had it in my book collection as a child. I don't know why. Because it's effed up.
I don't think that our parents' generation considered
that to be...
Because can you I can remember the arguments, and I know they're still going, but basically they're anachronisms now. That gollywogs were
just toys. I had one. I had a gollywog and I had the book, and I was not very old when I rejected both of those things, but clearly either a grandparent or someone, and they were in my home.
Yeah, my grandmother made me one, and when I first heard about it, I refused to. I'm like, no, they're magical beings like elves and pixies and stuff.
Yeah, they're not racist depictions of humans.
Like, what on earth are you talking about? And then when it dawned on me, I was like, but why?
Yeah, duh. Efftup.
Yeah, I didn't have an answer for this.
I think mine was fucked up enough for both of ours.
Yeah. Hanya Yanagihara's A Little Left Up. A book that's just misery porn, solely designed to convince you of how effed up the world is.
Like half of what I read.
Like half of what you read.
I do gravitate towards like tough stories.
Yeah, I think misery porn is
it is its own
actually
level.
What I like to read. So I have a hard time telling what is actually misery porn, and
I think the most miserable thing that I read last year was also actually the most legitimately necessary story, and that was My Dark Vanessa. But I don't think that's what this question is actually aiming for, and I'm not really sure how to fulfill that prompt.
well, I think a lot of people criticise A Little Life for just being heartbreaking. And I think that the aim is to recapture that criticism in a novel. However, I can't think of a time that I've criticised a novel because it just tried to make me sad.
Yeah.
And when it does just try to make me sad, I often criticise it for being boring.
I think we'd be rubbish and skip this prompt.
We could. I can actually probably. I'm going to say A Little Life for it, because that is a novel I thought was a bit average. I know that will.
But over the top with the misery.
I ran out of patience with the main character in that novel.
Yeah.
And I felt... I just...
Yeah.
I know I would just be criticising that novel, and I don't think that's fair.
Okay, let's move on then.
That is it. It's time to tag some people.
Ooh.
So I've been trying to think of who would have read some effed up stuff that I want to hear about.
I want to hear what Danny at Spinelli Speaks thinks is effed up, because I reckon she's got a secret stash of effed up books.
You reckon she's deviant? Well, I thought that Jen the Librarian would have publicly read.
Oh, you hardy lovers.
I think that she's a good one.
Yeah.
I also would like to know what Courtney Farrader has read that's effed up, because...
Yep.
Go on.
Can I have the last one?
Yes.
Smirty?
Yes, good one.
Because she will call it fucked up like it should be called. If nothing else.
Also, check out Smirty's channel if you haven't. She is
gold
funny and passionate and everything a booktuber should be.
Yeah.
Also, so check out
all the other channels you mentioned.
Danny, Courtney and Jen, but we do talk about them a fair bit, and they are quality channels. Yeah.
Is that us?
That's us.
We're done.
We're done. Alright, if you're new here, subscribe. If you're old here, don't unsubscribe, and leave us a comment and a like.
What's your most effed up book?
Yeah. Do you agree with American Psycho?
If we haven't tagged you and you want to do this tag, you should do it.